Welcome to the 1 Minute Apologist. We interview the world's leading apologists to provide credible answers to curious questions.
Welcome to the 1 Minute Apologist. My name is Bobby Conway. I'm here with Brett Kunkle at Stand to Reason. It's good to have you on the program, buddy.
It's always good to hang out with you, Bobby.
I'm just thrilled about the opportunity to interview you. I know that you're passionate about apologetics, and one of the things we want to do is interview the apologists that we have on the program. We feel like it could be helpful for people to sort of get a behind-the-scenes look at the different apologists. So I just thought it would be great for you just to tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey. I mean, how did you become a Christian, and how did you get engaged in apologetics?
Yeah. Well, my parents got saved when I was a baby, so I was able to grow up in a Christian home, grew up in some healthy churches. When I got into junior high and high school, got really involved in my youth ministry, had a youth pastor who was a huge mentor in my life and kind of steered me towards ministry, and great youth group, great church experience. And then at 18 years old, I go off to college, go to a local junior college, and I meet a college professor who just dismantles my Christianity. And he was bringing up all these kind of objections and challenges that I never heard in 18 years being in the church. And so I was shaken. And I thought, if what he's saying is true, if there are these major contradictions in the Bible, if there's these major inconsistencies in our worldview, then I'm going to have to do something about that. I'm going to have to give this up. If it's not true, I've got to give it up. And so that sent me on a search. And that's where I discovered apologetics. And I realized, wow, we've got 2,000 years of church history of Christians defending this rationally and intelligently. And we actually have really good answers for this stuff. And so apologetics helped rebuild my confidence that Christianity actually is true.
What do you think some of the bigger questions were that you were struggling with? Do you remember some of those in particular? Like, man, this is big stuff here. And then how did you work through that?
Yeah, well, I remember my professor would say things in class about Christianity, and then he would invite me to respond because he knew I was a Christian. And so he would ask, he'd read Old Testament law and say Christians have this view that there are these objective universal moral laws, and yet they're not following these laws they say are from God in the Old Testament. This is inconsistent. Okay, Brett, you're on. What would you say? I don't know. So I would chase him down after to his office and try and debate him in the privacy of his office. And I say, one of the things that he said to me in the privacy of his office is he told me to get out a Bible. Pulled out a Bible. He said, get out a piece of paper and a pencil. And then he spent the next hour with me going through alleged contradictions just in the resurrection account between Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Yeah. And that was one of the most powerful challenges that I had ever heard, because I'd never heard it before. So this is the first time, and he's seemingly showing me right there in the text. Here it is. You're looking at it. And so that was one of the big questions that I had to resolve. And what that made me do is just kind of go back to kind of square one. So I said, okay, is God even there? Can I say something more than, well, because the Bible tells me so? Is there any evidence for God outside the Bible? And so I went back to that and started from there. And then I actually started looking into other religions a little bit. Met with a Buddhist monk, met with a Hindu priest, talked to Mormons, and started just trying to engage people from other religions to see what they had to offer as well. And eventually came back around to saying, no, what Christianity has held for 2,000 years is absolutely true.
So what are some of the things about Christianity that distinguish it from other belief systems that really helps you to hold on?
Yeah. Well, I think there's the combination of the experience and the rational reasons. And so it's not simply, okay, I've got these just airtight arguments. But then if this stuff is true, it's going to comport with logic. It's going to be reasonable, rational. There's going to be evidence for it. But then Christianity also weds together the experience of God. So if God is the God of the Bible, then he's a certain kind of way, and we can enter into friendship with him. We can have an indwelling of the Holy Spirit. We can experience the Spirit in our lives. And we can have a rich, deep experience of that which is true. And so Christianity brings those two things together. Whereas some other religions will kind of throw the mind out and say, just go for the experience. Yeah. Christianity brings those things together. I think Christianity offers it has what we call explanatory power, meaning you can look at really every aspect of reality, every aspect of life, every area of study in the university. And Christianity informs that. It has something important to say, whether it's in the area of psychology or mathematics or biology, whatever it might be, there is some relevance from the Christian worldview to all of life. And that makes sense, of course, if the Christian worldview is true and is the proper explanation of all reality. It's the total truth of all reality. And so it touches every aspect of reality.
Yeah, I love that. I think even when it comes to teaching our kids some of this stuff, it's critical. I know that, I mean, you got 5 kids, right, Brett?
5 kids.
So what would it look like to be Brett's son or daughter? I mean, you have 5 boys, girls?
I have 3 girls, 2 boys.
Okay.
My oldest daughter is 18, 12-year-old son, 10-year-old girl, 6-year-old girl, and 2-year-old boy.
Wow, so across the spectrum.
Every level of development.
And your wife's pregnant with triplets, I hear? Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, and how long have you been married for now, Brett?
16 years.
16 years, okay. And what exactly in your life, when you think about your marriage and your parenting philosophy, how have you went about raising your kids with apologetics?
Yeah, well, I kind of see my work as an apologist, really, it serves my family tremendously. And my goal, not just as an apologist, but as a follower of Christ and as a Christian parent, is to raise my children in such a way that they're going to be adequately prepared to go into the culture to be missionaries.
Awesome.
We don't want them to simply think, oh, I'm an American citizen.
Yeah.
The United States is my home. There's a sense of that, and we love the U.S. and the freedoms we have here, and but we also realize that as citizens of a heavenly kingdom, that this world is not our home, and actually this is our mission field.
Yeah.
So we want our kids thinking that way from the get-go.
Right.
And so really when they're younger, a lot of theological training is vital. We want to just get the facts into them.
Yeah.
Kids at younger ages, they're just sponges. And at those elementary ages, they're sponges. They memorize a lot. They memorize easily. And so I want to get those facts in them and give them the content of our faith. So I want to give them the what when they're young. And then I'm going to start giving them the why. As they get older, they get into 5th, 6th, grade, they start thinking critically, thinking logically. Now I'm going to teach them how to think and then start getting them to ask the why. Actually, I'm going to start asking them the why. Okay, you think this is true. The what? Now, why is it true?
Yeah. And
help them give them the reasons in the apologetic so that they walk out of our home with knowledge that this stuff is true. Not that I simply, this is what I believe. This is what my parents raised me in. But I want them to take ownership of that. I want them to have their own reasons. I want them to be able to walk out of our house saying, I know this is true. And I think they can have that kind of confidence. That not, I just believe it, but I know it's true because I have the proper justification and reasons. So it plays a vital role in how my wife and I raise our own kids. And we actually expose them to unbelief pretty early on, because I get to do some unique things with my work at Stand to Reason, where we'll train high school, college students, take them to a place like Berkeley, California, which is kind of radical. No shortage of atheists and skeptics up there who we invite out to challenge Christian young people, and then we train the students in apologetics to be able to defend their faith. And so I bring my kids on those same kind of trips. They get to see me interact with atheists. They all sit and listen to atheist arguments with me. And I want them to be comfortable in that world. I do give them certain protection as a Christian parent, but as they get older, I want them now to have exposure. So unbelief isn't unfamiliar to them, but they can engage that confidently.
Well, there's people listening right now, Brett, and they're like, man, that's great. You're a great dad, great husband, you're plugged in, you're training your kids properly, all that. Well, where do I start? What do I begin to do? Be it a parent or just a new Christian, what kind of tips would you give for that person looking to engage in apologetics? Where do they begin?
Yeah, I think the first place they begin is in their own personal spiritual growth. A lot of parents just haven't been equipped, frankly, to know what they believe or why they believe it. So just take those 2 areas, theology and apologetics, what we believe, why we believe it, and start studying there. And maybe there's particular questions. Maybe take your top 3 questions. So it could be something as foundational as, well, is there even a God? Or maybe there are questions about alleged contradictions in the Bible, or questions about Jesus, whatever they may be. Start with those and just start doing your own study. But then as you do your own study, then have conversations with your family, with your kids about these kind of things. And I think that's I think personal growth is the starting point, because we can't take our kids beyond where we've gone. Right. You know, we can lead them to where we're at, but not beyond. So I think that's the first step. Secondly, then you have to be intentional about teaching your kids. So it's not going to happen through, you know, kind of osmosis or something. You're going to have to plan out times to have these conversations. And so you look for natural times. You look for times when you're sitting at the dinner table, and instead of just kind of, you know, letting the conversation go wherever it may go, you bring up a topic. Yeah. And you ask your kids questions. I think questions are key in this.
Absolutely.
Just say, okay, what do you know, Micah, what do you think about this? What do you think about, you know, this attribute of God? What is it? What do you understand it to be? You know, and you're having those kind of conversations around the dinner table. You are, you know, I think you can take your kids with you. Take them with you and teach as you go. So I'm going in the grocery store. I'm going to make sure I'm not alone, that my kid is with me, because there might be some encounter that I have that would be very instructive. So I get approached by, you know, someone maybe who's homeless, and they ask for money, and then I'll respond. Now, typically, I won't give them money, but if they ask for something specific, I'll say, well, maybe I can go to the grocery store and buy it for you. And then, you know, after whatever happens from that encounter, then I've got a teachable moment with my kid, and I can ask him, now, why do you think Dad may have not given money to this person? But now, did I, you know, what was my response instead? Why do you think I did that? Yeah. And then what does Jesus say about how we, you know, treat those who are needy or poor or whatever? And so you've got a moment to teach theology and apologetics just as you live out life. So you've got to plan for it, but then you also, you know, take those opportunities as they come. And I think those two things are key. And then figure out ways to get your kids engaging themselves. So you know, I get on Mormon.org, right, and sign up to have some Mormon missionaries come to your house. And when you do that, you say, okay, kids, come to the table. Yeah. We're all going to sit and talk with this person. Yeah. And if my older kids, I might say, okay, you engage a little bit. Let's see how you defend the, you know, the scriptures or whatever. And so then I'm going to give them an opportunity while they're with me to engage. And then afterwards, we'll do some debrief. And we've done this at our home. We've had some, you know, JWs come over, Jehovah's Witnesses, and sat down, and I said, hey, can my whole family come in? And they kind of looked at me. Sure. You know, all my kids pile in at the table.
That's awesome.
They have an hour-long conversation, and they get to see me. I get to model for them. Yeah. And they get to see not only me model, hopefully, intelligent Christianity, but they also get to see me treat this guy, you know, with love and respect. And then afterwards, we get to debrief, and then we get to pray. And you just model for them what it means to follow Jesus in this world. Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for your example in apologetics and for the intentionality with which you're being a dad and a husband. And I appreciate you being on the program today, buddy.
Always, anytime.